Jennifer Sertl, and want to thank you for joining us today at Think, Build, Launch podcast. This program is an extension of Marl Startup Studio. Marl Startup Studio was started to support students and first-time founders of all ages while they are at the idea stage of their startup. We believe that there are so many innovative ideas in our community that get missed simply because people did not have the structure to take their idea into an actionable plan, and that is exactly what we do. Before I get started on this week's program, I want to share with you that I had the opportunity to see Symphony for Our World, which is by the National Geographic, that goes to local communities and uses their local Philharmonic to do this amazing performance of 130 years of photography and music. And I have to tell you, if you get a chance to see it, it is so very inspiring. Right now, though, I'm ready to get to this week's program. And this week's program, we have Maureen Ballatori. Maureen is a absolute invested in the innovation environment. First of all, she's the CEO of 29 Designs, an award-winning design studio, which is a creative agency for food, beverage, and agricultural brands. In addition, Maureen, along with her colleague Craig Webster, have what's called Metro Collective, a curation of co-working spaces with shared intent and collaboration. Maureen, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
There's so much to start with. There's kind of three themes that I have. And I thought when I was looking at Metro Collective with the work that you're doing with co-working spaces, I noticed a phrase called the heartbeat of space. Can you talk to me about what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so that was a word that Craig was often using as we were kind of figuring out how to build the plane down the runway when we were forming Metro Collective. And it was the way that he described the culture and community and the buzz and all of that kind of stuff that happens in a shared space community that makes it a special environment and a place where people want to be. And I just thought it was such an engaging term for people to understand, heartbeat of a space and sort of meaning all of those interactions that happen there.
That's amazing. You know, people focus on the people, they focus on the idea, but what you're talking about is actually that it's a living space.
Right. The culture and the community and the connections that happen there. And that's why people love to go work in shared space communities, is because they want to be around that heartbeat and that energy and that enthusiasm for work and what other people are doing. It's one of the reasons why we love shared spaces so much.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And there's been quite a rise of co-working and the importance of co-working in innovation and entrepreneurship. I'd love to hear your point of view and maybe a story of some idea that you know came to life because of both the heartbeat of the space and also the space that you provided.
So a lot of my interest in shared space communities came from working in a shared space community. So as I was launching, I'm getting some feedback. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So as I was launching my creative agency 6 years ago, taking it into a full-time venture from a freelancing side project, I started working at Port 100 Cowork in downtown Geneva. And my story was that I was able to learn a lot from the people that were there in that shared space in terms of how to write a contract, how to deal with client issues that came up from the people that were literally sitting next to me in that space. And so that's where my passion for entrepreneurs, helping to support people in that space and environment all came from, was from my own personal experience of finding the support that I needed, that I didn't even know that I needed in that environment. And so co-working has taken off immensely in the last handful of years too, which is something that, you know, I'm grateful to see, but it hasn't been without challenge with the pandemic and everything like that happened with co-working spaces. But now that we see the future of work as it is, which is hybrid work environments, people really wanting to control the place where they're spending their time to execute their work day, I think shared space communities, co-working spaces in particular, are going to continue to rise in popularity.
That's great. And it's wonderful that you were able to create that space and also create a vision for 29 Designs. I know most recently in the Pinnacle Awards, you won quite not just an award, a few awards. And, often when people are building businesses, they don't always talk about the marketing piece or the presence piece. Can you share a little bit about your philosophy and what you do at 29 Design?
So storytelling is a big part of what we do at the creative agency. Our primary focus at 29 is brand building. So we utilize strategy, marketing, design, all of those things to help brands really take themselves to the next level is kind of the core focus of that. But the way that we do that is storytelling, understanding what makes someone unique, what makes their business different, helping them see that. Because sometimes, especially when you're first starting out, it's really hard to understand, well, I don't know how I'm different than everybody else in the marketplace. I'm just passionate about this business idea that I really want to grow. So we help them find what that unique nugget is and then how to tell that story to the world.
That's amazing. Is there like one or two best practices that you could share for all of the people listening in the program in terms of how they can begin to take their brand, I don't want to say more seriously, but have a little bit of expertise in how they're approaching their brand, please?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we do is help people find their one unique thing that they say to explain what their business is. And when you can nail that, what's your value proposition? How do you explain? It's your elevator pitch. And a lot of the time, it's really hard to put your finger on that. So if you focus on figuring out what that is for your business and be consistent with it across platforms, that is one of the first and most effective things that will help you level up.
Wow, that's great. I've noticed, in your focus, I've noticed that you're spending, I see in your space a lot of agriculture, ag tech. Can you share a little bit how you got into that to specialize in that space?
Yeah. So I grew up on a dairy farm. So it all started way back when. And then I never really thought that I was going to work in the industry. I went to school in Rochester at Nazareth College for graphic design and illustration, and always really wanted to work for myself. But I graduated from college in 2008. It was a huge economic downturn. People were downsizing marketing across the country and around the world. And so I spent 10 years working full-time in professional services. I was at a bank, and then I was at scholarly publishing, and then I was at a law firm for 5 years, all the while building my creative agency on the side. Somewhere along the way, I married a chef, and so fell more in love with food and understanding how profitability works in a restaurant setting. And so really I've always been interested in food and agriculture, but I think those things in particular being so ingrained in the work that I personally do, I found that I was personally drawn to clients that were in food, beverage, and agriculture. And then, we kept hiring people that had experience or some sort of connection to food, bev, and ag in their own lives. And then the kicker was when New York State rolled out the Grow New York competition, which awards $3 million in prizes a year to food and ag tech businesses from around the world to locate and be drawn to upstate New York in the region, basically from just east of Buffalo to just west of Albany. When that happened and I realized New York State was literally putting their money where their mouth is in terms of seeing the benefit of food and ag tech and its potential in upstate New York, that's when we decided to niche down and focus into that trifecta of industries.
That's amazing. And for any of you that are even out of the United States or anywhere in the United States, I think some people have a perception that New York is New York City. And I too, being from Denver, was so surprised at, I think 3/4 of the state is actually agriculture. It's beautiful fields and beautiful land. And they're so, it's amazing. And so it's exciting to hear that you did this. I'm also interested in this question is often, honestly, just comes to me thinking about you having a background as a dairy farmer. Are there any analogies you can think of to be a dairy farmer? What are farming best practices for entrepreneurs to be successful? Is there something that we can glean from that lifestyle?
Yes, that's such a great question. And I think it's grittiness. I don't know the necessarily if I can bundle it down into a single word, but when you're a farmer, you have to think multiple steps ahead, because what you put in the ground, early in the season, you have to then care for and harvest. And, there's a lot of risk in that process as you're literally growing your crop. And so there's certainly a parallel path there for an entrepreneur that's growing their business and kind of de-risking along the way too, right? For what they're thinking they're going to do down the line. What's the long-term goal that you're going to do with that harvest or that sort of next step that you're going to take your business to? So I think from a mindset standpoint, that grittiness and planning is certainly a parallel. One of the things that I also love about working with farmers that's so similar to entrepreneurs is that there's a huge collaborative kind of just nature to farmers that love to support their neighbor and help the people that they're working with. It's that the literal, can I borrow a cup of sugar concept exponentially when it comes to entrepreneurs. I find that they're often willing to help another entrepreneur grow their business.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, honestly, I think you could probably write a book about that. About that, so amazing. There is an upcoming. Is Grow New York have an event coming up shortly? Is there still time for our listeners? This will be out very soon. Is there still time for our listeners to participate?
So the applications are closed for this year, but they'll be back next year. And so anybody who's interested in participating in the Grow New York program can tune in to the announcement of the 20 finalists. That's, I think, August 31st, late August. And then those 20 finalists will pitch on stage in November, and the date is selected. I think it's the 15th and 16th or 16th and 17th, and the location is still to be determined. Okay,
that's fabulous. And we'll make sure that everyone has access to all of your Twitter handles and all of that. And also Marl Startup Studio, Startup Grind, Rochester, and Metro Collective are participating in an upcoming pitch event. Can you share a little bit more about how people, what are we looking for in that event, and how can people register?
Yep. So that pitch battle in particular is tech focused. So we're looking for tech companies that are interested in pitching on August 18th, and we start at 5 p.m. So keep an eye out for the emails about applications being open, but you can find out more about the event in particular on the Startup Grind Rochester website. And we usually narrow it down to 5 finalists to pitch for that event. And then the judging and the awards are announced that same evening.
That's great. So all of you have been listening to Maureen Ballatori on the heartbeat of space, the importance of space for collaboration, and then also finding focus and having the heart of a farmer, and all of that for startups. I'm so glad that you've been here today. I'd also like to thank Startup Grind Rochester, Upstate Venture Connect, Upstate Capital of New York, NextCore, RIT, and University of Rochester for your partnership with Marl Startup Studio and collaborating in this entrepreneurship tipping point that we have here in Rochester and Upstate New York. Finally, I'd like to thank our producer, Scott Fitzgerald at Rock Fox Studio. If you have an idea and want to know more about our program, connect with me at jennifer@marlaccelerator.com. Please subscribe to our program, and we will continue to provide information and inspiration about taking your idea from a concept to a business. This is Jennifer Sertl. Thank you for joining us.